Hello, everyone. This is Aman from English Olympiad, and today we have another guest from India. She's Jasleen. She's working at Benetton, an Italian company. She's the head of marketing in India. So I would like to introduce with you all Jasleen. Jasleen is working as head of marketing. She's author. She's working for the society. She's working for education development and everything. Would like to welcome Benetton and Jasleen to describe herself to talk about everything, your personal matters. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Aman. It's great to be on the show. Super excited to be interacting with students. Um, Starting with myself, I reside in Delhi NCR, which is the capital region of India, and I have done my masters in English literature, and I've also done my masters in business administration. I've worked with various brands in India, and I've always been in the marketing and the branding function. I've worked with a company called Canon, which is into imaging, and I've been working with Benetton since last 5 years. I'm really passionate about literature since that's where my academics were, and education, honestly, is very, very close to my heart. And I love interacting with students because I kind of feel that a lot of times there is this guidance that can make a lot of difference in a student's life. And I know because from experience it's made a lot of difference in my life. There are some people who I have interacted with which have really changed my perspective towards what I want to do, what my career has to be, what are the kind of decisions I have to make. So I honestly, it's kind of for me like a way of paying back. That's where I love interacting with students. And on the personal front, I have a small daughter who's 2 years old. I've been married for about 6 years now, and I love to read. I love to write. I have written a book which is available on Amazon. It's called Ginger and Honey, and it's a compilation of poems. So yeah, pretty much about me.
So we are just seeing that people are joining with us, and one by one, I would like to ask
Mhm.
everyone to write your name, where are you watching us, and who are you, and what kind of question you have. We'd
Sure.
like to take them, of course, at the end of the session, approximately 45 minutes. So we'd like to take your questions also. Sometimes at the middle, if the question is relevant, we'd like to take it. So you can make
Sure.
questions, and I would like to offer Jasleen to continue the session. Why youth should be so much focused for the post-pandemic leadership and education? Why they should develop their education right now?
Um, there is this very strong idea that I have about education, and that is that there is no good time or bad time to have education. I've been reading a lot of articles which kind of say that it is the best time to get into education right now because once the pandemic really eases out and the economy goes back to normal, people can really do job hunting. But in my life, I have been under very different schemes of education. I have learned very different things, variety of things, and somebody who is a very programmatic about planning would say that it was very experimental. But I feel that no education ever goes waste. So even if it's a pandemic, it's not a pandemic. I first want to clear that it's always a good time to get education, even if it's a short term course or something you want to learn on the internet. If you want to self teach yourself, it's always a good time to get educated. I learned Japanese language when I was young, and I was doing literature in the college. And a lot of people would ask me, that, why are you learning a language and a Japanese language? Do you want to become a translator? And I said, no. I'm learning it because learning never gets waste. And I'll tell you how it connects the dots. From the time that I was learning Japanese language, I think 4 years, 5 years after, I got into this company called Canon, which is a Japanese multinational. and see how dots connect. When I was working in Canada, it was very easy for me to connect with a lot of people, connect with some of the expats and leaders, and talk to them because I knew Japanese. So exposing yourself to variety of subjects, variety of education systems is always great. So my first suggestion to you would be, let this pandemic time go. Even if it's a non-pandemic time, you should always allocate some bit of your routine, your discipline, into educating yourself. And it's not like you have to enroll into a degree course. It is something that you have less knowledge about. For example, a lot of people who are in the marketing and branding side have little exposure to, say, financial or supply chain aspects. So it's always a great idea to read up articles, and the more you read articles and the more you read write-ups on subjects you're not comfortable with, you start getting comfortable with them. So it's always, education is always a great idea, not just pandemic but anytime.
So this is great. Of course, we all are studying many more things. So what kind of situation is going there in India exactly? How youths are developing themselves, and how we can develop our youths to study more, and what topic they should focus on. Especially, you are working in a company, of course, they are working for brand fashion. So what they should focus on, what kind of knowledge then they should focus on, and they should study more and more. What do you think?
Mhm. I kind of, have a very I'll give you an example, and it's a very interesting example. I was talking to one of my friends lately, and she's a doctor. I'm not going to take her name, but she was telling about this doctor's party, a dinner that was hosted, and this happened somewhere in December last year. And she was talking about this really famous doctors who joined in, and some of really high profile people were there in that dinner party. And I was really impressed when I was hearing her, and I asked her, how did you feel about it? Like, you're a doctor and you were with such educated and learned people in this profession. And she was like, I didn't really feel great at that party. And I was surprised. I asked her, why is that? And she said, because every table in that dinner party was just talking about patients and medicines. Nobody was talking about economy. Nobody was talking about environment, climate, sustainability. So she felt that, and she's a doctor, but I'm not limiting or I'm not generalizing it, but she said that, some of the doctors that I know are very confined to just medicine. They will not really want to talk about various other topics. But I feel, for you to be educated and for you to open up your horizons, it's very important that you start looking at how things work, how a world works. How is economy connected to science, connected to art? How is art connected to manufacturing, connected to human capital? The whole world, the way our world works is very complex. It's not just one domain. It's not one education system, or it's not one skill. It's a plethora of things that come together. It's like this maze which has got millions of small pieces, and when you start aligning these pieces, you get a bigger picture of the world. So I feel it's always a good idea to create a checklist, you know and that checklist should be a variety of subjects, and see if you're able to create a cover as diverse subjects in a week. So even if you are in a fashion industry, you are in a telecom industry, you are in marketing, your finance, doesn't matter. Create that checklist. Say that in this week, I have to read 3 articles on economics. I have to read 4 articles on emotional intelligence. What that does is it exposes you to a lot of subjects. And when you're able to correlate between subjects, when you're able to correlate between how things work, it sharpens your skills when you're at job. It helps you take better decisions, because then you're not limited or you're not confined in your perception. You know how one thing is going to affect the other and it's going to affect the third thing. Your decision making is going to become more accurate, and it's really going to develop. Yeah.
Great. And this is a great idea for making a checklist. Of course, who are watching you from Oyer, we would like to check them. You can write, and we would like to take some questions also. We are just observing that many are joining one by one. So we have to discuss a lot of things today. For example, what marketers are looking for, what kind of skill they are looking for. Of course, as a head of marketing, you have to have some definite qualifications, right? So what kind of things you are looking for from the candidates who are coming to your company or to you exactly?
Um, if there is a student who is very serious about building up his or her career in marketing, I would say there are three things that you need to be very, very strong with. The first thing is culture. It's very important because when a student enters into the corporate life, the student needs to understand that you are going to be talking about a product, or you're going to be talking about a service. You're going to package the product and the service, and then finally you have to sell it to a customer. If you do not know the culture of a particular society that you're going to be selling it to, you can really go wrong in a lot of ways, and sometimes it can cost a lot to the company. So culture understanding is very important. A lot of brands these days want to focus on millennials, the young population, and especially in countries like India, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, the young population is a lot. The millennials have a certain way of talking. Millennials have a certain way of uh, giving their loyalty to a brand. They have a certain way of communicating. You need to understand that. So culture is very important. The second thing is content. What are you writing? What are your social messages like? What's the kind of language they're using? I think content is the second C, as I would call it. I always say there are three C's when you're a marketer, which is first is the culture, second is the content, and third very important C when it comes to marketing is context. You have to be very, very thorough and very knowledgeable about what is the context of your brand. Why is your brand around? Why do you exist? What is the purpose of existence of your brand? And all of that comes into the third C, which is called context. If you try and think about, say, a brand like Google, what is the context that Google is here? Why is the context that Google is thriving? You talk about a brand that's really famous these days with millennials, TikTok. The context of TikTok is that it's self-expression. People love to express themselves, and they have this power with TikTok in which they can have their own line of narrative, their own storytelling. So I would say these three C's are very, very important for any student who's thinking of building a career in marketing or branding. You just cannot miss these three things. I think rest of all the things can be learned on the job, but these three things are where you need to have your alignment very, very perfect.
So thank you very much. This is fantastic. You are talking about the yacht's development and for the preparation of the coming days, because this is the time they should prepare, especially the graduate students who are looking for job after the pandemic or after this
Mhm.
situation. They can run after job, right? So how
Mhm.
we should prepare for our linguistic capabilities and other things. For example, students sometimes face a lot of problem with their CVs, right? What should include on CV? What kind of things companies are looking for? And the best thing, they are making a CV with their educational qualification grades. Sometimes they don't have extracurricular activities. So what things they should include on their CV? What kind of extracurricular activities companies are looking for? What do you think?
My first thumb rule, no matter what job you're applying for or how talented you are, for a CV, it has to be a one pager CV. No compromise, no negotiation there. It has to be one page. Even if I would say there is someone who is a vice president of an organization and has worked in tens of companies, he has to compress all of that information in one page. And if you're not able to do that, there is something fundamentally wrong. Trust me, nobody wants to read your 3 pages. Nobody wants to read that you won a first prize in a badminton contest. No, nobody wants to know that. So when you start crunching it into one page, something magical happens. And that magic is that you start to realize that what is important in your life. Because if you had 3 pages and you're crunching 3 pages into one, you'll have to shed off a lot of content. And that is when you learn the art of prioritizing. And learn of art of prioritizing is very, very important. I might just take it up in the due course of the session of how it really helps you in your life as well. But you need to see what are the skills that are hard earned. There are certain skills that are very natural to someone, and there are certain skills for which you have to struggle, or you have to go through an education regime, like getting your degree. It's an earned degree. So everything that is earned in your life gets the prominent positions, and then you try to supplement it with things that you're gifted with. For example, you might be a gifted artist, you are a gifted writer, or maybe you are a gifted musician or a dancer. The very important rule in a CV is that the older a thing gets, the more bottom position it takes. If you're talking about something that you did when you were 10 years old, and maybe if you want to include in your CV, it is something that goes really bottom. We as corporates, they're more interested in knowing what is it that you've done recently. I'll give you a very interesting example. When you try and go for your visa application, they always say that we want a picture which is just 6 months old. Recency is very important. Something that you've just done, or something that you have just been engaged with, will always interest recruiters in your CV. So yeah, that will be my points for building up your CV.
Yeah, thank you very much. It wasn't just known by me also, because known to me also, because I thought the a long CV can help people. So once I submitted a CV of at the wedding of my time to my wife's family, 4 pages, 4 pages CV. Okay, so to show them how I'm working. So
Talented you
fantastic.
are.
This is important. The CV should be precise, and CV should
Right.
be informative in a short.
Yes.
So this is fantastic. I think everyone will get the knowledge, and this is important for the youths who are preparing
Right.
for the next job panel. So thank you very much. So this is going to be a fantastic discussion. We are just going to have uh, definite plans on education, how they should develop themselves, what kind of preparation you should have to fight in the global context of job preparation, fighting to be an entrepreneur. So everyone is coming one by one. So I'm having a lot of questions also we would like to ask you, and that is the main point. So what are the preparation topic should a student have? For example, you talked about the checklist, right? So some students who are not graduate, who are studying now, for example, higher secondary students, they have enough time for their education, of course, but what extracurricular activities that should improve right now? For example, HSC students, HSC means higher secondary school students. So college students, how they should focus on extracurricular.
Mm-hmm. Um, Aman, I'll really answer this question differently. I feel it'll be very wicked and very wrong in my part to tell you what you should focus on or what a student should focus on. I think I think we all need to understand that we are very different people, all of us, you know. I love reading, I love writing, but if I say, you know what, you should be focusing on writing, and I'm talking to a student who's really interested in learning Spanish, it's wrong. I think everybody needs to look within themselves. What is it that they like doing? You know, there is this whole thing I feel about humans, and especially I feel this about a lot of parents and teachers, who want to push kids into a standard path of learning. I think that should not be the way, because what will happen is, if somebody tells me that, you know, you should actually start doing some banking exercise, no matter how hard I work, I will always be a mediocre, because I'm not made for that. You know, it doesn't come from my heart. I don't feel like doing banking day in day out. I don't dream about it. You have to dream about things. You have to do things that you dream about. So if there is some student who is in his class and he is dreaming about drawing, he's dreaming about swimming, you know, you get these things from your heart, you need to focus on that. I understand that livelihood is one thing, but also breaking mediocrity is very important for students to excel. You know, if you are good at cooking and you pursue cooking as a career, you will become a great chef at a Michelin star restaurant. But if we force you to become a doctor, maybe you will just become a mediocre doctor throughout your life. You'll never be able to excel. Excelling is very important. You need to always have two plans, I feel. I'll be honest with you. I always thought that marketing was something that I was born with. But at the same time, I felt that I was a great writer. You know, I would love writing. So I thought writing is not going to make me rich. I'll be honest. I wanted to earn money. I wanted to be rich. I thought a corporate job would. So I entered into a corporate job, but I never left writing. I still write. So what I'm doing is I'm honing my skill of writing, but at the same time, I am ensuring that I have a financial plan. I think it's very important what your calling is. You need to see what's coming from your heart and then pursue it.
Great. This is important also, keeping the passion with
Yes.
your plan and working. So we are having a fantastic discussion with Jasleen. She's working at Benetton. She's the head of marketing, working as the head of marketing in India. So we are going to take more questions. Also, you can ask any question uh, about the topic. The topic is education and future of marketing. So we'd like to ask some questions about future marketing. I work sometimes about the planning of digital marketing. We heard a lot of words about digital marketing, right? So what do you think about the future of marketing is going to be, and what kind of market we have to prepare for the future?
Um, I feel marketing is a very vast subject. You know, it is very dependent on the industry that you're working with. What is the kind of product that you have to market? I think it'll be unfair for me to give a single path answer to this question, but I would again stress on the fact that if we are very focused on, and I kind of really admire Kotler for all of his theory that he has laid out for us. I feel if we stick to the basics of what are we trying to sell, how are we trying to sell, who are we trying to talk to, I think that answers about literally half of your questions. I feel marketing is not like the whole game of marketing. The most complex thing is not choosing the platform or executing it. I feel the most important thing is thinking of the right ideas. Spend as much time as you can with the product that you want to market. Spend as much time learning about the audience that you want to market with. I think it really starts with that. Once you have a strong hold on who you're selling it to, why you're selling it to, I think the media planning digital marketing, you want to do it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. I think that is still not that complex a task. A more important task is asking the questions of how, why, what, and where. I think those are the more important questions to address.
Of course, we have a guest coming after some day, maybe 20th May. She'll be talking about the future of TikTok and
Wow.
TikTok for commerce. Okay, she's working there.
Yeah.
She's the advisor
Love
at
it.
TikTok. Okay, so
TikTok
is there
is
anything
equal.
coming in the digital market or in the field of marketing that can lead after this situation? Is there anything coming, or what kind of activities going on inside the company planning? So, what do you think?
Um, Nobody can deny that content consumption has increased a lot. There are some cases, some countries where the content consumption has increased as high as 70 to 80% on certain platforms. People are consuming a lot of content because they have time to go online. They're spending time on Facebook, on Instagram. People have started adopting TikTok. I personally know a lot of people who were not on TikTok and migrated to TikTok. So, of course, time is very proportional to content. You have more time, you'll consume more content. Brands are trying to ride on it, of course, but then there are certain brands, like if I give you an India example, there are essential services that are still going on in India. For example, most of your FMCG brands are still spending very heavily in India because they're getting consumption. At the same time, there are certain brands, like most of your luxury brands, your hotels, your travel, the entire hospitality line, which has taken a back foot, and they're not being very aggressive with their marketing because, of course, people are in a lockdown and they would not really be able to consume it. I also want to get to a point which is very, very important. When we talk about marketing, when we talk about engaging with our customers, it's very important to even do communication with your customers when a customer is not consuming you. I'll give you an example. There is a big hotel chain in India by the name of Taj. I'm sure you would have heard of it. They have international hotels as well. Even during this lockdown, I keep receiving emails and messages from them. And that is because being no more in consumption doesn't mean that they have to go out of my mind. It is a great time for brands to build relationships. If there is a customer who's hooked onto internet, it's a golden time for you to talk to a brand, talk to your customer, hear your customer. People are doing highly engaging stuff on Instagram. They want to talk to their customers, they want to pacify them. Are you feeling anxious? Listen, come talk to me. I'm doing a live for you. Come engage with it. So I feel it's a great time to engage, whether or not you're selling, not selling. But yes, do keep in mind that you're always on a lookout to improve relationship with your customers, and you should always harp on that opportunity. Sorry.
Great one. This is very fantastic suggestion for the companies. Also, I'm also getting messages from Redison Blue here in my city, of course, and
See, yeah.
yeah, they are planning to visit them also. But they should have extraordinary plan that you said, that you mentioned about it. Of course, we are in quarantine. We have to focus on our health first, right? So it's bad news also for India, for Bangladesh. The number of infected people are increasing too much. So how people are careful about the pandemic, I don't know, but it's increasing. Maybe Russia in the second position right now
Mhm.
in the number of
Yes, yes.
infected people. So this is too hard to manage this kind of situation, especially countries like India, Bangladesh, Myanmar. So we are on topic. We have some people are watching us. So what is your thinking about um, educational planning? For example, schools, institutions, colleges,
Yeah.
and universities are off, right? So, and they are planning many more things, like sometimes some university are taking classes online, some companies are making meeting through Zoom and other things. So how India's activities are going on? Just, it's out of topic, but we can discuss it. How India
Absolutely.
is managing their education.
First of all, I think I'll be giving a very small perspective. I'll just be sharing things that I am seeing. So please pardon me if I do not represent the larger population sentiment. But in my view, I would say phenomenally well. I am talking and I'm hearing from a lot of students of how they're doing their online classes. And it's happening very regularly, it's happening every day. These are rigorous sessions, they're getting their homeworks. So schools are trying to maximize the productivity from the students. So they are ensuring that there is no gap in their study momentum, which I feel is great. But at the same time, Aman, I really think there is one important thing that I have to talk about, and this is something that I've felt always throughout my life. Um, I think there are a lot of people who blame education systems in third world countries. They say, the school is not focusing a lot on practicals, and the school is just giving us theoretical knowledge, and the school didn't teach us this. I differ in this point. I feel it's the other way around. You never have to say the school didn't teach me this. You have to take ownership and say I want to be taught. And I feel it starts from you. It starts from a student. It starts from how hungry are you. I'll give you an example. If you enter into a restaurant, everybody is by default given a glass of water. Yeah, and that's a normal practice. But if you're very thirsty, you'll say, "Can I have one more glass of water?" And then they'll give you one more glass of water. But if you're very thirsty, you'll ask for a third glass of water. And they won't complain, they'll give you water. So what happens? You're asking for it. And you always have to ask for things. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I will not give her food to eat until and unless she tells me that she's hungry. So I feel the ball is in our court. All the students, this is really a big message. The ball is in your court. You are the one who has to tell that you want to learn. Start changing the sentence. Don't say the school didn't teach me this. Say that I need to be taught. Raise questions. Ask your teachers. And trust me when I say this, because I know a lot of teachers, they'll feel super happy when you do this. So even if it's a quarantine or it's a lockdown period, you have to take your responsibility. I mean, you can't say my school is not doing this. I would rather flip back the question and ask, why are you not doing it? Why are you not taking an initiative? So yeah, I think it starts from you and it ends at you. So you are the one who has to be responsible for your education.
Great. We all should be careful, especially the students, the youth. We have many responsibilities to run
Right.
our education, our preparation, of course. Thank you
Absolutely.
very much. And I would like to ask everyone to write here, who are you watching from where? We have
Mhm.
Jasleen from India. She's
Yeah.
working as a head of marketing at Benetton, and she's also a writer. And what is the name of your book? Can you please tell me?
The name of my book is Ginger and Honey.
Ginger and Honey. Maybe this is about health, right?
No, it's actually a poetry book. It's a compilation
Okay.
of poems. Yeah.
Okay, great one, great one. And we wish that we would like to have the book in our hand, and we'll read it. Is it in English or in your?
It is in English and it is an ebook. It's available on Amazon.
Okay, fine. So, dear viewers, you can see the book on Amazon, and you can just check the book Ginger and Honey. So, would like to have a lot of interaction with you about. I like the idea of having connection with the students, and you are talking about the students' own interest. This is very fantastic, and we are just organizing some programs for a tongue twister show, for example. At evening today, in the afternoon, we organize a tongue twister show for 2 hours, and students are involved to join live from a university. So we are just trying to make people connected with working, but on the other hand, we should be careful about our health and other
Absolutely.
system that's going on. So
Absolutely.
now, would you like to suggest some books or some websites, some links, some articles? These are very important for our youths to know, especially for the learners. That, for example, you told about who are interested, how they should read them. Of course,
Right.
sometimes it's available on Google, but a specific collection or connection can give them uh, very easy way.
Hmm. Um, okay, so I'm literally going to be sharing my secret list with you, the secret list that I follow to get all my information. My first go to place is always Google News. I love reading Google News. And I love reading Google News for a simple fact that it's just one destination. I go there and I have business related news, I have world related news, I have local news, I have finance news, I have technology news. So the whole idea of checklist that I talk about gets addressed there because you see a lot of buckets that you are referring to. At the same time, I'm a very big fan of New York Times. They have a section called New York Opinion. Again, that's a little bit of cultural section because I spoke that culture is very important for you to understand. So I really read New York Opinion. It's written by people from around the world. Sometimes it's someone from Italy talking about the situation of COVID-19 in Italy. Sometimes it's about someone in Russia. So it gives me a variety of mindsets, culture, what people think, perspectives. And my third go-to website would be, I think, HBR, Harvard Business Review. Um, I'm a paid member. I'm not really sure how much of content is visible to non-members. I think they have a capping. They don't show all content to non-members. But HBR is amazing if you are someone in management. You just can't miss it. And the fact that everything that they put out is so thoroughly researched. It comes from experts. So when you are HBR reader, you are a little bit ahead of the curve. You know about trends and patterns before they hit the market. So that's my recommendation list: Google News, New York Times, especially New York Opinion, and HBR.
Okay, fantastic. Sometimes I would like to read all the articles of Entrepreneur magazine. You know, the
Yeah,
magazine is very fantastic. They all time try to provide the best things of entrepreneurship. As an
absolutely.
entrepreneur, I'm not a good teacher, not a good presenter. I'm working hard to make something better. So we have some books also. I'd like to show them because
Oh, lovely. I'd love to see
yeah,
them.
we have already published two books. One is English
English Mania.
Mania,
Amazing.
English Mania, and this is appreciated by 50,000 readers. And
Oh,
this one
lovely.
is English Mania 2. Okay, so and now I'm writing another book. The book is The Leadership and Future of the World,
Mm-hmm.
and observing the leadership of Trump, the leadership of Modi ji, right? So everything leadership in our country, leadership in companies, leadership in organizations. So I have some experiences of leadership, and I'm just trying to write them and give them to the world. It is in English. It will be published soon.
Okay.
So, so
Lovely. All the best to you.
yeah, that's why we are just working on many topics, and you'll be glad to know that English Olympiad is going to be organized in 30 countries in this time, and we'd like to organize our grand finale in Canada. But
Wow.
we are working for that. But at the sudden moment, we got this coronavirus pandemic, so that's why we are engaged with many other jobs. That's why we are collecting many speakers from the world to talk with us, to give us
That's a
inspiration.
great job, Aman. I really feel a lot for education, and I really have to appreciate and congratulate you for the work that you're doing. I saw some of the speakers that have come on your website, and I feel it's phenomenal. So many
Thank you.
congratulations for that effort.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's at the beginning of pandemic, I was obsessed with the news and bad news is exactly. I was just watching all the time BBC, CNN, and then I came to the Trevor Noah show. He was just making fun with Trump's previous speech and other things. So that's why I was getting fun.
Yeah.
But suddenly I thought that as everyone is making webinar and there are sometimes calling me to talk, why we are not organizing some
Mm-hmm.
shows? But whenever I started
Absolutely.
organizing shows on online, I was super busy. I was just working with people like you, for example. Just bringing you and hearing from you is also helping
Mhm.
me. I told you about the
Yeah.
CB, 4 pages. Now I'm getting one
One
pages,
page.
one page. That is important. But I heard about 2 pages also. Now this is very important. 1 page. Head of marketing is saying that 1 page. This is important. This is the knowledge we have to share with the yachts who are preparing
Right.
themselves. So this is important. And now I see that I'm super busy. I'm working, I'm communicating. We have a list of guests now. Many are coming and talking. So hope we will get more sessions because this is helpful for our youths also. Thank you for
Absolutely.
joining. Okay,
Thank you.
we have another one. There is a comment also. We can take it. MD T Tahmid. The name of this book is very impressive. Wow, also interesting. Ginza and honey. About your
Right.
book.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you. And we have another one. To Fazil Hussain. What tools you prefer for managing contacts and planning? He's maybe a job holder. He's working in Dhaka. This is the question. What tools you prefer for managing contacts and planning?
Um, if I'm getting it correct, I think you're talking about the marketing contacts. Is that the question?
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
So there is a thing called. Sorry, were you saying something, Aman?
No, no, you can continue.
Yeah. So there is a thing. A school of marketing, a subset of marketing, sorry, which is called CRM. It's customer relationship management. And there are various CRM tools available on the internet. Of course, you have some which have a paid version, but there are some unpaid versions of CRM tools. And what they really do is they try to leisure your customer contacts. So you can enter details like with their phone number, you can have an entire purchase history that can be retrieved. So it adds basic details like what's their name, what's their last name, what's their email ID, what's their phone number. And I think if you are talking about something which is of a sizable size or a sizable quantity of customer data, it is always a great idea to have a CRM tool rather than rely on just an Excel or a ledger or a manual ledger. I hope that
Okay,
answers
thank
your
you.
question.
Yeah, thank you, the San. You got your answer. So we are talking about uh, managing the pandemic moment. So we have many people are watching from our Facebook page, and this interview and conversation is also live on our YouTube channel. You can just subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you can see them. So thank you very much, Mr. Tafazzal. We are just talking about education policies and everything. What do you think about the education terms, education techniques, education ways that are going to be changed? Or sometimes in India and Bangladesh, we see that the education is very theoretical, right? But in China, they're working in the field too much. And in USA, they worked a lot in the field of practical education, but sometimes it's in vain. So what do you think? What kind of education should we have for the future generation that is that can be practical, that can be too much connected with work, too much connected. You talked about uh, maybe you talked about emotional intelligence sometimes. So what do you think about the education policies?
Hmm. Um, I am, of course, not on the policy making side, so I'm sure there would be a lot of challenges in getting some really innovative policies executed. So I'm going to speak from my limited experience in education, and I do hear a lot of third world countries and developing countries talk about not having enough practical knowledge. We understand that we are living in a country which has an under improved infrastructure, and there's a lot of scope for improvement. But at the same time, I'm always a big supporter of the fact that it starts from within, it's not that you can't convert theory into practice and you need a system to do that. I'll give you a small example, and it's very interesting. I was talking about this with my husband a few days back. I remember when I was in a child, I was in the chemistry lab once, and there was a peer, a schoolmate, classmate of mine, who dropped some acid on his hand, and immediately I took an alkaline solution from the shelf and I poured it on his hand. And my chemistry teacher was amazed, because it's a theoretical knowledge that when an acid reacts with an alkaline solution, it creates a base which is neutral. See, education provides you with the tools, but you have to use them yourself. I mean, I understand it would be a great idea to have a school facilitate practical knowledge for you, but if the school can't, trust me when I say this, but you have a lot of opportunities to put that into practice yourself. Simple things like, if I have to touch an electric plug, I ensure that I'm wearing my footwear. I ensure that I'm maybe using a wooden piece or a wooden thing to do it, because wood doesn't conduct electricity. Of course, these are very basic things, but I feel if a student is really self motivated, if the student is driven, it's not that it's impossible to get your hands on practical knowledge. I do understand that as you grow up and you get into higher education, maybe the practical knowledge needs a bit more infrastructure. But I think these times when there is YouTube, when internet is so easily accessible, I think we should not give ourselves a reason to not do something. You go on YouTube and there are a million videos that can really teach you into the practical side of things. So yes, I do understand there are shortcomings in the economy, but we always have it within us to overcome them.
Great, thank you very much. I was talking with some school principals, Mr. John, yesterday. They were worried, they were thinking about guardians, their reactions, students' syllabus. They are working, and I was talking with them about the customer services, because they are private schools. I told them to
Yeah.
talk with them and give them special care at this pandemic moment. So this
Right.
is very fantastic, and we would like to take more questions from our participants also who are joining here, and you can just ask questions. That is the question and answer session, so we can make more questions. Here you can ask questions, so no problem. But we will be waiting for questions. But discussion is going on because you know in India you are having a lot of people, and the size in comparison to the size, Bangladesh has a huge population also. So how we can manage our total education policies? You are not policymaker in education, but what kind of education, what kind of skills um, we should focus on in our overall education policies? Just for example, I always try to focus on preschooling. We should give them the perfect time in early years. That is
Yeah.
not focused in our country. For example, in Germany, students are learning four languages. sometimes they're learning six languages. But in our country, in your country, people are learning who are learning Hindi, they are learning extra
Yeah.
English, right? But what
Mhm.
kind of linguistic capabilities should we have in our youth's mind? How we should improve them? You see that you are working in multinational companies; they are also communicating in English. For example, we know some English, but we are not expert or focused. I'm not a presenter, also. That's why we face problem. So, who are
Yeah.
not uh, perfect in communication, how they should handle them? So, what do you think in your company, in your country, and sometimes in your experiences among your teams? What kind of linguistic power should we have to communicate?
Okay, so two different questions, and I'll address them one by one. Um, on the education system, I feel the education system needs to be a little more experimental. You know, what happens is after 10th standard in India, if you take any of one stream, that is humanities, commerce, and science, you sort of find it very difficult to then move away from it. Whereas I have a few friends who are in United States and some parts of Europe, and they have switched their streams a lot of times in their career. I think that's a very important thing because it's funny, but you kiss a lot of frogs to find the prince, the real prince. I feel just having a gut that I want to become a doctor sometimes is not enough, or maybe thinking that I want to become an engineer until and unless you get a little bit into it. So I feel exposing students to different streams before they finally make up their mind or before they finally choose what system they want to go into is very important. For example, I might think that I want to become a doctor, but I go into my first year of medicine and I realize, listen, I'm missing my history classes. So I feel that kind of exposure is very important. On your second question of linguistics, I have actually been on the other side because I learned a totally new language when I was about 18 years old, and I learned Japanese language. It was very hard for me to learn it because it's a difficult language, and also it requires a lot of hard work. I realized that when I was exposing myself to completely unrelated environment of Japanese language, I was able to grasp it more. For example, I used to watch a lot of Japanese movies, and then I would have subtitles, and then I would work really hard to understand. They were very difficult, but I would work really hard. I would try to listen to Japanese songs. Sometimes they would not make any sense in my head, but over time, when I started doing that, I started to get a grasp of knowledge. So don't be afraid. If you want to get more grasp in English, start watching an English movie. First day when you will watch the movie, you will not understand 90% of it. The second week when you will watch another movie, you will not understand 70% of it. The third week you'll not understand 50% of it. But trust me when I say this, and I promise you, because I have done the same thing when I was learning a Japanese language. By the end of 4 months, 5 months, you will be able to understand everything that you want to understand. Language is just the practice. And isn't it amazing? Like, I have a 2-year-old daughter, and she started speaking in English and Hindi. So, it's just how I didn't teach her language. We don't teach. Our brain is very, very smart when it comes to linguistics. Our brain understands patterns, it understands grammar, vocabulary. You just have to be a little bit patient, give it time, and expose yourself. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to switch on an English movie without subtitles thinking, oh my God, I'll not understand it. So just dive into it. And eventually, practice makes a man perfect when it comes to languages.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. A movie can help us to learn language, of course. Sometimes it can
Sure.
give us deep knowledge of communication. Sometimes it can
Right.
teach us something that is not available in books. Because, for example, whenever we enjoy movies, we can enjoy many types of movies. For example, if I see the American movies for English, uh, though we have huge popularity of Indian movies in our country. Our people loves too much South Indian movies. So the fact is, whenever we
Wow.
see American movies, sometimes we see British movies, sometimes we see Australian movies. So this kind of variation of movies can help us to get deep knowledge of English, because they are doing too much in their creative
Right.
arena of the world. So this is fantastic, and we have another question from a viewer: how fashion or clothing business is going to change after this COVID-19? Of course, this is a very important question, but I would like to mention one thing. We have 5 minutes to end our session, a 1 hour session. We would like to have all the questions in this time. So if you have any question about education, about COVID-19 and future of marketing, Jasleen is here to answer you. She has been talking for a long time to develop our youths in education, in development of CV, in having job, and everything. We're just getting a session like developing you all and making awareness also. So, can you answer how fashion or clothing business? This is a very important question right now.
Yeah, that absolutely. Aman, I'll broaden the context of this question, and I will talk about how all the businesses are going to be affected by globalization accelerating in the world. It has changed the way people consume. It has also changed the way people talk about businesses. And there are so many businesses across the world that are getting shut, which really gives me a lot of sadness. But I think every business is going to have a hard time proving their existence to the customer. The customers are going to become very responsible. I'm sorry to say, but customers are going to become very critical. There are a lot of conversations right now globally that are talking about how human race is exploiting the planet, how there needs to be sustainability, how there needs to be responsibility. There would be a lot of businesses that will be asked this question. And I think as a responsible brand, each brand needs to prepare for the answer. And in case brands feel that there are certain things that they're not doing right at the moment, they need to correct those. So we all need a greener planet, and there are a lot of theories going around that there are some harmful practices which basically led to coronavirus being born. You know, the live markets, the animals crammed into small areas. These are all not healthy practices that humans should be doing. So I feel every brand needs to focus on getting a responsible existential solution and a purpose to why they are existing. I really think customers are going to become very, very aware, and they're going to ask every brand very hard questions after this pandemic.
This is important. Yeah, yeah. This is important. How we are in the heart of customers. That is important. Another thing is the necessity, because of the world's problem. You cannot just avoid it. For example, in our country, Muslim populated country, so everyone is interested to go to market to shop, right? But
Yeah,
on the other hand, we all are aware we are not going to have shopping. We are just making awareness. If you have enough money to shop right now, you can give them to the hungry people who are
correct.
suffering. And we saw that the hungry people and the homeless people is not only here in Bangladesh or in India. I saw some news
Everywhere.
from USA. They are suffering a lot. They are sleeping at night
Absolutely.
in a car. So we should be careful about it also. And the discussion is very important. We talked, if I make a summary, we talked about how we can learn from articles, how we can learn from many websites, and how we can develop our skill by reading too much. You talked about some websites, some New York Times. I'm also following them, and I have see first option to many Facebook pages of journals and medias. So we can read Forbes, and Entrepreneur Magazine, Time Magazine, Business Insider, and also can have some courses from Harvard or Coursera, with Udemy in your country. They are doing great. So this is the summary, and we must have a CV that should be in one page. You told about it. That is very important. And you talk about the passion, interest of youth, how I should make myself passionate about my study and preparation. These are the summary. That is very fantastic discussion. I'd like to thank you very much for joining today, because this is a very hard time. Although this is hard time, we can make conversation and make friendship over the internet and communication. So, what is your last or ending line to the viewers? Because this is the peak hour, at this moment. Thousands of people, social workers, and pages like us are online, and they're making Facebook Live. But after the ending, they all will come to enjoy also the show. So they will enjoy it again, as it is available on our Facebook page and YouTube.
Aman, I think my very final advice everyone out there be to never stop learning. Don't think that you've done your graduation or you've done your masters and it's the end of it. There is so much to learn in this world, and learning should never stop. So in some way or the other, you need to dedicate yourself to at least say every day I have to read an article or read newspaper, which is 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So never be out of touch of learning something new. Never be afraid to learn something new. Never be afraid to fail. It's fine. Everybody at one point in time has had to experience failure, and that's okay. I love education. I love talking to students. I love helping them, Aman, because I realize the importance of having a guidance, and sometimes it can really prove important in your life. So, for everyone watching this video, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. If you're very interested to know about marketing or marketing from a marketer's eye, I post a lot about the creative process that I use to do campaigns. You can follow on Instagram. If you have any more questions, drop in a line of message on LinkedIn. I'd love to help you. And yeah, I just feel that don't be afraid to ask questions. Take that punt and talk to people, talk to mentors. Take as much as guidance as possible. It always helps.
Thank you very much. This is fantastic. So hopefully we will make another session also, if we can just get time with you all. Thank you from Bangladesh for joining with us.
Thank you so much, and wishing all of you a lot of health. Please be safe. Keep washing your hands and maintain social distance. Thank you so much, Aman, for having me on the show. It was lovely interacting with you.
Thank you. Thank you